We are located here in Boulder, Colorado, and the winds just picked up.
Tie down your garbage cans and meteorologists. Winds top 100 miles per hour. Xcel has turned off power to 50,000 Coloradans to prevent a wildfire, and even more are in the dark due to unplanned outages. Xcel buried power lines in Superior after the Marshall Fire. We look at the push for that expensive safety measure elsewhere. As dangerous weather threatens Colorado, the Trump administration says it's shutting down the science lab in our state that helps all of America prepare for those conditions.
The fundamental work that is done at NCAR impacts our daily lives.
And there's an ambitious effort to buy holiday gifts for 10,000 kids in need in Colorado. 10,000. They're going to do it. We're going to help. Because you don't just watch. Because this is next. Hold on to your nuts. If you're a squirrel out in today's wind, this guy nearly became the flying variety as he was clinging to the side of a building in Aurora. Foothills towns got exfoliated today. This is Lyons, north of Boulder, where wind gusts peaked at 109 miles per hour. There was a gust of 102 at Rocky Flats along Highway 93, which was closed due to the wind. Xcel preemptively shut off power to 50,000 Coloradans to prevent a downed power line from starting a wildfire. Memories of the Marshall Fire, burning 1,000 homes, fresh in a lot of people's minds today. Then another 75,000 Coloradans lost power in unplanned outages. There were trees down all over the place, including in Boulder, where tonight's CU basketball game will be played without fans, rather than risking people coming out on a night when first responders are tied up and a lot of traffic signals aren't working. It's been a dry, warm, remarkably windy December day in Colorado. It would be foolish to dismiss the obvious fire danger. So far, we have just seen the inconveniences and annoyances of wind damage, canceled school in Jeffco, and all those power outages, planned and unplanned. Our meteorologist Corey Reppenhagen's been out getting his beard tickled by 90-mile-per-hour winds. Corey's in West Arvada. And Corey, I guess the winds came in a little bit later than expected, but the wind speed as advertised.
Yeah, those peak wind gusts, you're right, those definitely hit that 90 to 100 mile per hour range. In fact, right out here to the intersection beside me at Highway 93 and 72, Rocky Flats at 102 miles per hour. Right now, it's eerily calm. The winds have been pretty light. We haven't had a single gust above 25 miles per hour here in over an hour. So this puppy's pretty much over as far as the bulk of it is concerned. We could catch a strong gust here occasionally as we go through the next few hours, but the bulk of it now is finished. But we saw some pretty intense moments. Take a look at some video we shot in these neighborhoods out here in West Arvada. We spent most of the day in Leiden Rock and the Candelas, which are very famous for catching the winds coming out of Cold Creek Canyon, where we saw those 90 to 100 mile per hour gusts throughout the day. Not a ton of damage reported in this neighborhood, although some of the residents here did tell us that they could hear the asphalt shingles being ripped off of their roofs, so there's still damage to be assessed. As far as the biggest damage we saw, we saw some power poles that were completely snapped, about 8 feet from the base of the pole, completely snapped in the winds. I've seen some and surveyed some damage like this before, and I can tell you that it takes a 60 mile per hour wind gust to snap a telephone pole like that. And in that location just to the north of Golden along Highway 93, very accustomed to 60 mile per hour wind gusts, so I'd have to say that this was one of those 75 plus mile per hour wind gusts that took out these power poles. And thankfully they were not energized when they got snapped, because who knows what kind of sparks we could have seen coming from those power poles. And that's the situation along here. And right now I'm in the Leiden Rock area. We're completely out of power. Normally some Christmas lights out here and street lights. The neighborhood is completely in the dark, and the same with the Candelas across the street, as we really kind of look forward to the power being restored, but perhaps maybe a little thankful as we get one little rogue gust here towards the end of the night here. And there goes Amy's light right now. We'll we'll put in a discrepancy report for that. But we'll send it back to you, Kyle, as the winds will just be more periodic and more occasional as we go through the rest of the night.
And Corey, you can certainly understand how the sight of some of the dust blowing around in the foothills and just off the foothills got people nervous today that it could be smoke from a fire, because from a distance, it does look somewhat similar.
I mean, a few times Amy and I did look at that and thought to ourselves that it looked like smoke that we should investigate, but thankfully it was wind, and it just sparks back all those memories from the 2021 winter where we did see smoke instead of dust. But fortunately, in this wind tonight, mostly all dust.
All right. Thank you, Corey Reppenhagen, photojournalist Amy Hunter, and to our boss, who is going to buy a new light. Let's talk with meteorologist Chris Bianchi about what is coming our way both tonight and then, I guess, Friday. I mean, Chris, we got Xcel already warning people that if you had your power shut off today because you're in a high-risk area, it could happen again Friday.
Exactly right, Kyle. A similar-looking event for us on Friday. This one maybe a bit more concentrated in the foothills and the mountains, but still another round of wind on the way for us. And by the way, 3 different 100-mile-an-hour wind gusts for us here across Colorado. One at the Mesa Lab in South Boulder, another at Rocky Flats, and another just coming in within the last 5 minutes. I just updated this. Berthoud Pass clocking in at 102-mile-an-hour wind gust for us. Again, that just within the last hour here, last few minutes that we've seen that wind. As Corey was saying correctly, we're going to see that wind more in spurts here as we head over the next few hours. Still some gusty winds, but it's going to retreat more into the foothills and the mountains as we head over the next few hours. The foothills and the mountains will get the bulk of the wind as we head into tomorrow morning. Still some occasional gusty winds for us, but the bulk of the wind in the mountains. Now, this may be my greater concern as we head through the next few hours will be that winter weather advisory for us across our northern mountains. That's where it's snowing and it's still windy. That combination of snow, wind, plus it being dark, that means tricky travel here. Rabbit Ears Pass down through Berthoud Pass. I don't have to tell you, you're driving through an 102-mile-an-hour wind gust. Not fun. But then as we look ahead at Friday, we were just talking about this, Kyle, just a second ago. More wind for us on Friday, 60 to 80-mile-an-hour wind gusts for us in the foothills and mountains. Winds a little lighter for us in the metro area. This looks at this point like a primarily foothills and mountains event, but still give us another day or so. We'll have a bit more context on that event, but just keep an eye on Fridays. We've got more wind on the way before that wind finally settles down for us this weekend, just in time for the winter solstice and that Bronco game.
Chris, thank you. So it's fair to ask, especially on a windy, dry, high fire danger day like this, whether Xcel Energy has done enough to bury power lines to reduce the risk. Our Evan Krugel went to Superior, where neighbors who lived through the Marshall Fire now have buried power lines, along with lingering worries about unprotected lines elsewhere.
When strong winds sweep through Superior, memories of the Marshall Fire can be tough to keep down.
What it stirs up is it's being scared. It's still a thought process in my head, yeah.
Ted Chavez has spent the past 4 years building back what he lost in the fire. And his new home isn't the only thing that's changed on his property.
Ever since I was a young little guy growing up here, we had power lines, but now they're underground.
I'd say 99% of the homes and businesses in Superior have buried utilities.
Superior Mayor Mark Lasis says burying power lines became a priority after the fire, which investigators say was caused in part by damage to an Xcel line that sparked. The company disputes that finding, but settled a lawsuit for $640 million earlier this year.
Well, I mean, I think it's one risk factor that has been mitigated. And as we've been recovering from the Marshall Fire, we've been trying to mitigate as much risk as possible.
Most of Superior was not included in Wednesday's public safety power shutoff, as Xcel preemptively turned off power to nearly 50,000 homes to prevent wildfire risk. Xcel has not said whether the buried power lines gave them confidence to leave this area off the map. Both Mark and Ted were glad to have power, but question if more work should be done to their west to bring lines underground, including these ones along Highway 93 that nearly blew over today.
Yeah, it's nice that you can look out and not see the power lines, but it's not here that caused the fire. It was back on 93. So that's the place they should be concentrating on, putting those wires underground, you know.
I did ask Xcel today for specifics on how many miles of line have been buried since the fire and what areas they've focused on. Kyle, they said they are working on a response so far. we have not received one. Certainly will be interesting to see just how much work has been done, not just in Superior, but in those communities to the west.
Sure, and I mean, everybody understands they're kind of up to their keisters today, but this is a conversation that's going to continue because people really care about it.
Yep.
They also want to know where their money goes.
It's expensive work is what Xcel will say, but certainly would put some of these lingering fears to bed.
All right, Evan Krugel, thank you.
You bet.
Picture the joy on a child's face when they open a holiday gift. Now times that by 10,000. That is what the nonprofit A Precious Child is trying to pull off this year, helping 10,000 children in need along the Front Range. That is a huge goal. But A Precious Child mobilizes a huge number of volunteers and donors to assist their team in making it happen. And they'll have our help. This week's Word of Thanks microgiving campaign supports one of our favorite holiday efforts each year, the enormous gift drive put together by A Precious Child. Let me tell you why I love their approach to this. They give the kids' gifts to parents unwrapped so that the parents know what their children are receiving, and then the parents can have the joy and dignity of wrapping their children's own presents. They want to give the whole family the experience of holiday giving. And they aim to give each child 3 gifts: Legos, Barbies, arts and craft supplies, clothes, so on. They tell me this year that the need is immense, that families are scared about how they're going to be able to provide for their kids, and that A Precious Child's 70 partner agencies are working furiously to build lists of families that might otherwise go without this holiday season. So, let's get after it. A moment ago, you saw the QR code on your screen. You can also text the word THANKS to 303-871-1491 to get that link to donate. You know that even $5 helps. 5 years of pooling your $5 donations has raised $17 million for nonprofits in Colorado. You know the deal. I'm never going to ask you to give if I don't myself, so I'll match the first 50 donations of $5 to get us rolling. Nearly 7,000 of you have signed up to make a monthly donation to the Word of Thanks Fund. You put in your info once. Each month, your donations automatically split among all the nonprofits that we feature. We know we messed up that QR code thing again. We will show it to you again by the end of this program.
Is essentially a town square for the global atmospheric research community.
The Coloradans who do research that's respected around the world are the latest target of the Trump administration, which plans to dismantle NCAR in Boulder. That's next. The Trump administration's retribution campaign against Colorado continues. The president's been open that he is punishing this state for using mail-in ballots and for not freeing his election-denying ally Tina Peters from state prison. Now the Trump team says it is closing NCAR, the National Center for Atmospheric Research in Boulder. If it were to close, the models used to help predict severe weather events like today's in Colorado could be severely impacted. Our Marshall Zellinger explains how every American has benefited from NCAR's work.
The peak wind gust where NCAR is located at Mesa Lab in Boulder reached 109 miles per hour around 4 p.m.
I had spent my entire career at the National Center for Atmospheric Research in Boulder, Colorado.
It's fitting the wind was windiest here today because the National Center for Atmospheric Research helps predict weather just like this.
We make predictions. We peer into the future by developing models, everything from droughts to floods to wildfire prediction.
Jim Hurl previously served as NCAR's director, which he credits for something we all benefit from when we fly on an airplane.
It was NCAR that developed this technology that is used in almost every cockpit to detect things like wind shear and microbursts, sudden bursts of strong winds down toward the surface.
The types of things that can blow a plane into the ground.
NCAR developed the technology that can detect those, and those are then installed at airports around the world.
President Trump's director of the Office of Management and Budget posted on social media Tuesday that NCAR would be broken up, saying it is one of the largest sources of climate alarmism in the country.
That NCAR is a center for climate alarmism. Is palpably ridiculous.
Former Democratic Congressman David Skaggs served on the board of NCAR's parent group, UCAR.
The economic justification for what goes on at NCAR and the research that is done there is beyond reproach.
Congress controls the budget. The president implements the budget. Skaggs believes Congress can keep NCAR funded.
There may be an opportunity, and if so, it should be taken to insert language in legislation that says the work that NSF funds at NCAR should be maintained, period.
The way Jim Hurl described NCAR to me is that it provides resources and tools that would be too expensive for any one university to try to manage on its own. and that if it was dismantled and the work was done that's currently done in Boulder is suddenly done in a dozen different places, Kyle, that the research would be impacted.
The climate thing is the focus, but so much of what NCAR does is just like apolitical stuff, right? Like nobody wants to die in a wildfire, right? Like no farmer wants to lose their land due to a prolonged drought. Like this is basic stuff.
We have seen pushback from people who were part of Trump's first term as part of NOAA, National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, as well as NCAR. Like this didn't get the same, like, yeah, that we would expect. Certain people, Congresswoman Lauren Boebert was for this, but we have not heard that same line of reasoning from all Republicans on this. So who knows? It's another balloon to Colorado right now.
Right? Yeah. No, and we know why this is happening. All right, Marshall Zellinger, thank you. Immigrants were promised a better life if they came to Colorado to work for the world's biggest meatpacking company. A new lawsuit says they were deceived. We'll look at that next. Attorneys for Haitian employees at the JBS meatpacking plant in Greeley want to organize a federal class action lawsuit. This lawsuit claims the company used social media to target job recruits in Haiti, then subjected them to terrible working and living conditions once they arrived in Colorado. According to the lawsuit, an HR supervisor at JBS worked closely with a Haitian man in Colorado named Mackinson Remy, advertising jobs through TikTok. Now, Remy was not employed at JBS, but the lawsuit claims that he was frequently at the plant and that JBS knew exactly what he was doing. Remy recruited hundreds of Haitian workers that way, charged them hundreds of dollars apiece, and then when they got here, stashed them in dirty, overcrowded motel rooms and homes. The lawsuit also claims that the safety trainings they got were conducted in English, which many of the immigrants didn't understand, and that the employees were then often injured while working in unsafe conditions. We spoke to some employees about their concerns last year through a union rep and a translator.
It was a house with 5 bedrooms with around 40 people inside of the house. It was only 1 kitchen and 2 bathrooms for 40 people. We were supposed to get a better living condition, us or the cows that we were killing.
Attorneys say that hundreds of employees could be covered by this class action. They want a jury trial. When these complaints were first made public last year, JBS said that it was cooperating with the investigation and that they had fired 2 supervisors at the plant. Back with your feedback next. The nonprofit A Precious Child makes the holidays happen for kids up and down the Front Range. Their goal this year is to provide more than 10,000 children with presents, gifts that come unwrapped with wrapping paper so that parents and caregivers have the joy and dignity of wrapping those presents themselves. Scan the QR code on your screen or text the word thanks to 303-871-1491 to join me and a bunch of others in giving to A Precious Child's holiday gift drive. They are often the nonprofit of last resort for some of their 70 partner agencies who will send them referrals of families in need. The foster system, school districts, homeless shelters will reach out and ask A Precious Child if they can provide gifts, sometimes at the last minute, so that no child in our area goes without a gift for the holidays. A text. What an opening line of tonight's program. Hold on to your nuts. You have us laughing like crazy. That squirrel wasn't laughing. That squirrel was in danger. Chuck in Glenwood Springs writes in, so watching Jaden Knowles, our meteorologist, made me wonder how much wind is required to lift a meteorologist off the ground and send them to the land of Oz. Jaden was in it today, right? I mean, he's not the tallest guy in the world, but he is well built. So when he gets knocked off his feet, those are some strong winds. See you next time.